guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another meal prep video. I thought because I'm actually ready for the day, usually when I'm doing my meal preps, I am not like ready for the day. I just do it like roll out of bed, do my meal prep on a Sunday, but since this is a long weekend, I was ready and raring to go, so I thought I would do a proper introduction. And I actually don't do this on my videos. I don't really introduce myself, and I noticed that there are people who do that with every single video, but I don't think I'll do it with every video. But in case you are new here, my name is Jess and I follow the WW Personal Points Plan, and I also count my calories and macros, and I share grocery hauls, meal preps. I do try to do at least 3 or 4 days a week of daily what I eat videos where I share recipes. I also do book reviews. It's just a random book review video once in a while, but I try to do them about once a month. I also do favorites videos when I have a chance, and I try to bring lots of creative and different recipes. So if you are new here, welcome, and I hope you will subscribe and stick around and join our little family. Today I have 3 recipes for you. I have a breakfast, a lunch, and a snack. So for my breakfast, I'm going to do some breakfast sandwiches. These are different than what I've done before. I found this recipe and I thought it sounded super easy, and it was so easy. So and it's really good. I did taste the eggs and stuff and it turned out really good. So we have that. For a lunch, I am doing a Thai chicken salad with a peanut sauce, and this sauce turned out amazing. And then the snack, bringing the pumpkin, because it is September, you guys, so it is pumpkin season. I made a pumpkin oat snack cake and it turned out fabulous. So I wasn't sure because I kind of tweaked the recipe a little bit. For all of these, I will put all the original recipes down below, but in this video I will share what I did differently. With the snack cake, I'm kind of added more protein to it, so made it more of a protein snack because protein is very important to me. So anyway, they all turned out fabulous. So let's get into the meal prep, and again, I will have all these recipes linked down below, and yes, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to make are going to be these breakfast sandwiches. I don't recall ever making ones like these before. It sounds really good, so let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do is going to need some eggs. So I'm using 6 eggs here. I'll be making 6 sandwiches. I'm going to use these chicken sausages. Now, if you buy already cooked chicken sausages, you can just chop them up. Mine, I could not. I had to take them out of the casing because it was raw. You're going to need about a half of a cup or to a cup of chopped spinach, a half of a bell pepper, a quarter of an onion, 1/8 of a cup of fat-free half and half, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then some sort of bread for it. And I'm using these sandwich thins. So the first thing we're going to do is get the eggs together. So I'm just going to whisk up these 6 eggs until everything's all nice and mixed up really well. Then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I think this is supposed to make the eggs kind of fluffy when you bake them. So, and they did turn out pretty fluffy. Then we're going to add in the milk, which again, I've used just 1/8 of a cup of fat-free half and half. That's what I had. I'm going to add in a little bit of salt and pepper. And then we are going to whisk that really well while we go work on the sausage and the veggies. So as you can see here, I cooked up the sausage already. Like I said, I took it out of the casing, and I'm adding in the chopped onion. And I used about a 1/4 cup of onion. You can use however much you'd like. And then I used a half of a red bell pepper, pretty good sized bell pepper. And I'm going to wait to put the spinach in until just before I add everything to the eggs, just because I don't like the spinach to be super wilted. I want to be able to kind of taste it, so I'm just going to put it in at the very end. So we're going to saute up these veggies. Now, make sure you let your veggies cool, your veggies and your sausage cool really well. So that's what I did. I let mine sit for probably about 15 minutes. That way I didn't kind of cook the eggs at all. So after they got all nice and softened, I let them cool for about 15 minutes, and now I'm adding them to the egg mixture. Now my pan here that you see, it is really greased really well. So I just greased it with some cooking spray. And this is a pretty large pan. These turned out really thin. I think if I would have had a smaller pan, it would have been better. Because again, the original recipe calls for 12 sandwiches, which is what the size of pan that I'm using here was what the recipe said. But I think I could have went for a smaller one. But that's okay, I just doubled up on the eggs. So just spread it all out there on your pan. Like I said, make sure it's greased really well. And then I'm going to put this in the oven at 375 and I'm going to bake it for 25 minutes. But I'm going to check it after about 20 minutes just because it is a thinner layer, which mine did take 20 minutes and it came out perfect. I cut it up into 12 pieces. I'm going to use this cheese that's probably not the best for you, but this is some white American cheese. And I'm going to use that. And then just like I said, I'm just doubling up on the eggs because I did make 12 squares. And so I just put in some of the eggs on there. And then we're going to add on a piece of the cheese and then put the top bun on there. Now, I always wrap mine in parchment paper and then also in foil because I do put mine in the air fryer. And this just really helps cook it and steam it and make the cheese melty, but also the sandwich kind of crispy. So that's just how I heat them up. And these always turn out really well, but I've never made this particular one before, so we'll just see how this tastes. But it looked really good. The eggs, I did try. The eggs were really good, had lots and lots of flavor. Another way you could heat these up is just in the microwave. Of course, take them out of the foil, or you can just put them in the foil in like a toaster oven or your regular oven. I think any of those would be great, but I highly recommend the air fryer. The next thing we're going to make is one of my lunches this week, which is going to be a chopped Thai salad. I'll only be making 2 of these because I have other ideas for lunches this week. And I'm going to have some leftovers here that I can have for like a dinner or something. But for the salad piece itself, you're going to need some romaine lettuce. You're going to need some coleslaw. A half of a red bell pepper that you cut into strips, a half of a cucumber sliced in half, some shredded carrot, some green onions, about a half of a cup of cilantro, or if you're like me, lots of cilantro, and then also some shredded carrots or julienne carrots is what I am using. And then what we're going to do is just get a big bowl and we're going to put all this together. So I had probably about 4 cups of romaine lettuce. I just took one big romaine head and chopped it up. And then you want about 1 1/3 cups of the coleslaw is what the recipe calls for. I just kind of eyeballed it. I mean, I figure it doesn't matter too much how much of this you put in there. And then I'm just going to toss in, like I said, it calls for half of a cup of cilantro, but I love cilantro, so I probably put more than that in there. I'm also a huge fan of green onions, so I put quite a bit of that in there too. You can shred up your own carrot, or like I did, just bought these julienne carrots that just made it a lot easier. Then I'm just going to toss in all the rest of the veggies. Now, as you can see, I already had everything all chopped up because when I start my meal prep, as you guys know, if you've been around for a while, you know that I chop everything up first. Any produce needs to be chopped up. I chop that all up first, and that way when I go do my actual meals and prepping them, it makes it so much easier. Here's my salad. Now let's make the sauce, or the dressing, I should say. We're going to need a 1/3 cup of this PB2 prepared. So you want to prepare your PB2. We're going to do a tablespoon of these liquid aminos, or you could use soy sauce or coconut aminos, whichever one you like. I'm going to do a tablespoon of sesame oil. I love the taste of sesame oil. Yes, this is going to add points in calories, but that's okay. We're going to need a tablespoon of lime juice, or you can have a real lime and squeeze it in there. I have this keto sugar-free honey, so I'm going to do a tablespoon of this, but you can use regular honey or maple syrup. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of this minced ginger, and we're going to do 2 teaspoons of this garlic paste. I love this garlic paste. A teaspoon of sriracha to make it kind of spicy. And then we need a 1/3 cup of water, and that's to make the actual like PB2. If you have regular peanut butter, you can use that as well, but the PB2 is just less calories, less fat, and all that stuff. Here is mine. It came out a little bit watery. I probably should have used a little bit less water. Sometimes with PB2, it does that to me. But I'm going to put them in these little containers. I have some chicken that I bought that was frozen. Just heated it up. So I have my 2 containers here that I put my salad base on there. I'll toss the chicken on top of that. Then I have my dressing. And all I'll do is I'll just shake it up. I'll put my dressing on there, shake up the container until it's coated. Almost forgot the peanuts. So I did put 1/8 of a cup of peanuts on top of each one of these as well. So I think that's like half of the serving is what I did. So it's like 80 calories because I think a serving was 160 calories. And I did try that peanut sauce. Amazing. Highly recommend this recipe. And lastly, the snack for my week, or dessert, whatever you want to call it, is going to be this oat pumpkin or pumpkin oat snack cake. And I did change the recipe, so I put the original down there, but I did change the recipe. First up, we're going to need 1.5 cups of instant oats. The recipe specifically said to make sure you use the instant oats, so I did already have some in my cabinet. I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of flour. The original recipe calls for different. I'm going to do 1/2 cup, and I'm going to do 1/3 cup of this unflavored protein powder. That's in place of the rest of the flour. Then we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. We're going to do 2.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. It called out all the spices, but I'm just going to do the pumpkin pie spice. We need 1 tablespoon of melted butter. I used a Country Crock Light. We need 2 egg whites, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 cup of pure pumpkin, so make sure you use actual pumpkin, not the pumpkin pie stuff. We need 1/2 cup of plain non-fat Greek yogurt. I'm just going to pull out about 1/2 cup out of this little container I already had. 6 tablespoons of maple syrup. I used the Lakanto syrup is what I used. And 1/4 cup of almond milk. The original recipe called just for regular milk, and I had this almond milk, so I decided to go with that. I figured I'd cut down on calories and fat and all of that. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is mix up the dry ingredients. So we're just going to do the oats, that 1/2 cup of flour, 1/3 cup of protein powder, and then the baking powder and baking soda and the pumpkin pie spice. Now, I like to use the unflavored protein powder in baking recipes like this because, again, it adds a little bit of protein to it. And you can substitute protein powder for flour by doing 1/3 cup of protein powder per every cup of flour. Now, I don't recommend in like a lot of these types of bar recipes to replace all of the flour. So I think you should add in just a little bit of flour in it. So that's what I did in this recipe. Then we're going to do the wet ingredients. So we're just going to add in that melted butter and the egg whites. And the recipe did say you could use like coconut oil if you wanted to use that, which coconut oil is, a lot of people use that for their fat. I'm going to add in the vanilla. And again, if you want to use full eggs, you can, but egg whites is going to cut down on that fat and the calories as well. And we're going to add in that pumpkin. I can't believe it's pumpkin season already, y'all. I am so here for pumpkin season. And then we need 1/2 cup of the plain yogurt. But again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball 1/2 cup out of this little container. And make sure you get everything stirred really well in between because you're going to get lumps otherwise, especially with this yogurt. You want to make sure you don't get any lumps because it will kind of separate in the recipe. So I have had that happen to me before where I didn't mix up the yogurt really, really well and whisk it really well. And it did, like the bars did not come out very well. The cake didn't come out very well because I think it kind of separated in there. So you want to mix it until you just don't have any lumps at all and your mixture looks nice and everything's all incorporated. We're going to add in that maple syrup. The Lakanto maple syrup, I like to use it for baking. I am not a fan of it to eat with like pancakes and stuff. I don't like how liquidy it is. So it's not one of my favorite syrups. If you're looking for a really good sugar-free syrup, I do like the Chalk Zero syrups. But for baking, I do pick up the Lakanto at like grocery outlet where it's really cheap. And I do like to use it for baking. Now the original recipe is kind of different on this. It said to alternate adding in the oat mixture and the milk. And it said start with the oat mixture and try to do it in 3 batches. And it said end in the oat mixture. So I don't know how much that matters, but it was very specific in the recipe. So I added in a little bit of the oat mixture, add a little bit of the milk, and then I realized, okay, if I'm going to do this in 3 batches, I probably better add like more at a time. I don't know. I was just like thinking, wonder what this matters. I have no idea because it's all going in there. If y'all know if there's like, is there a baking secret to this and the reason why you have to do this? I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I don't bake very often because I don't have a lot of patience for these kind of specifics. And I don't know, just not a baker. I'd rather cook. I'm more about cooking than I am about baking. I feel like you have to be too precise with baking. And for me, like I said, I don't have the patience. And so that's why I don't bake that often. Anyway, we're getting this all mixed up. Now, again, the original recipe said to take a 9x9 square pan, but I thought I had a lot of mixture. It just seemed like a 9x9 would be too small. So I have this 10 by something. I think it's a 10 by 8. And I went ahead and just put some parchment in paper in there, put it in there, baked it at 350 for 25 minutes. And you want to check it just to make sure that everything is cooked through. But mine was perfect. Put a toothpick in it, came out perfect. I did try these. They are really, really good. They are not very sweet. So if you like a little bit sweeter stuff, you may add in a little bit of like sweetener or maybe like some sucre and gold, like the brown sugar replacement. That would be really good. But I personally thought they tasted really good and I highly recommend them. So you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me and check out the description box and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.